Hello, it says we are live. I'm going to believe it. So if you're watching, we are live streaming this in a few different places on LinkedIn, the Quickly Hire LinkedIn. We are live streaming this on Facebook, Quickly Hire Facebook, and on Quickly Hire YouTube. So if you're watching, let me know that you see us and go ahead and comment, and I'll assume you are, so we can get started and get into all the great stuff we're going to be talking about today. So I will go ahead and jump in. And if you have questions during this call or anything like that, feel free to throw them in the comments and I'll see those. So welcome to the Agency Hour presented by Quickly Hire. The Agency Hour is a space for agency owners to come and learn from experts in their field. These webinars and discussions are designed to help you boost your revenue, sharpen your skills, and fuel growth in your business. And today we are joined by SEO expert and Pathfinder SEO co-founder, Lindsay Halsey, and we will be diving into the evolution of SEO in 2024. But first, Quickly Hire is the fastest way to add vetted freelancers to your team. At Quickly Hire, we understand the importance of assembling top-tier talent for your business. And whether you need a developer, a content marketer, a designer, virtual assistant, or any other technical or creative professional, we have got you covered. Our platform connects you with highly vetted freelancers who match your budget and requirements, ensuring you find the perfect fit for your team. Our freelancers work with you for a set number of hours weekly, and you pay a set monthly retainer. That's all. We take care of all the sourcing, vetting, interviews, compliance, payroll, international fund transfers, and all the other administrative headaches that go along with hiring, which you're probably familiar with. So feel free, please, to reach out to us at quicklyhire.com to learn more. As I said, today we're joined by Pathfinder SEO co-founder, Lindsay Halsey. Pathfinder SEO is a software that gives agencies a system to market, sell, and deliver SEO services without feeling overwhelmed. With Pathfinder SEO, you can increase your recurring revenue, close more sales, get closer to your clients, and empower junior team members to deliver SEO services. So anybody struggling with scalability, that is a huge point right there. So welcome, Lindsay. It's great to have you here, and I can't wait to dive into what you're going to be sharing with us today.
Thanks so much, Emily, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm so excited to talk about this topic, which is a broad one, kind of SEO in 2024 and always evolving. So that makes today's conversation especially fun. I'm going to walk you through a series of slides and also kind of just a couple of other, we'll do some searches on Google, etc., and walk you through what we're seeing in SEO this year. So let me get my slides up and running. And if you have questions along the way, please feel free to jump in with those questions. And we will keep this as dynamic and interactive as possible. So whenever I talk about SEO in this year, I want to look back to the previous year to see where we've come. And really, when we look back to 2023, there are three kind of big things that happened in the world of SEO. The first is that we saw the full rollout of Google's helpful content system. And so this is a series of algorithm updates that Google made to try to reward content that is helpful to real people and to your audience. And so that full rollout really rewards quality content that is created for the intended audience. And that content needs to be powered by genuine expertise and experience. And so that was a big thing that rolled out last year. And we continue to see updates to that system rolling out. In fact, there was just a March algorithm update with Google all around this idea of sort of how do we keep low quality or spam content down and keep rising quality content up in the search results. The other big thing that I don't need to remind you of is that AI is here, and AI has impacts on SEO from Google's search generative experience, which we'll look at, to using AI to help power your SEO strategies and really your SEO implementation. There was a lot of evolution last year with AI. And then the final thing is not necessarily an SEO specific initiative that happened or thing that happened in 2023, but more of a broader marketing change. And that is that we transitioned from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4. And I bring this up in this talk because really making sure we have a foundation for tracking website performance is how we can determine return on investment from SEO efforts. And as agencies, we spend a lot of time helping our clients transition to Google Analytics 4. And it's something we should really kind of pat ourselves on the back for navigating, because Google didn't really make it easy. So that's where we were. And as we start to look ahead, there are always a couple of questions people ask every year at the change of a year. And the first is, will SEO die in this case, 2024? This question has been asked and answered a million different ways every year that I've been in the industry for about 15 years now. And the answer is, in my opinion, always no. SEO isn't going to die. It's going to continue to evolve, just as it has every year in years past. But I think for businesses, getting found on Google will continue to be a paramount component of their marketing strategy. And that SEO is how we invest in that long-term capital, that long-term traffic for our websites and for our clients' websites. And it's here to stay. I also think websites are here to stay, that even with Google's search generative experience, that people are going to continue to go to websites and create complete transactions on websites, and that we aren't going to see AI taking over the world of SEO or the world of website visits and thus website development. Instead, we continue to see this evolution. And in our agency, the big evolution is that we spend more time for our clients doing SEO strategy, and we spend a little less time doing SEO implementation. We can leverage AI to speed up some of the things that were tedious about SEO in the past, and we can spend more of that time being strategists. And that's also the part of our job that's not really replaceable by AI. So yes, a client could go and produce blog content using AI. I would argue it's not going to do well in Google's helpful content update because it won't have that genuine expertise and experience component. But we can speed up our content production or something with AI, but we can't replace strategy. What do we write about? Why? How? Etc. And so that's a little bit of a frame to tackle sort of the biggest questions people always ask about SEO in a new year. But also, people often ask, what are the most important ranking factors right now? And this is the idea that essentially I will place more of my emphasis or more of my time focusing on the ranking factors that have more impact in today's Google algorithm. And this is how we used to think about SEO 10 years ago. Basically, hey, should I go fix page titles and meta descriptions, or would it be more beneficial if I focused on alternative text on images? And so SEOs would weigh in on what are the most important ranking factors, and then everybody else would follow and go and prioritize their efforts into those areas. But this is a little bit of chasing algorithms, and it doesn't take a very holistic or strategic approach. So changing something small like a page title or a meta description isn't really what impacts SEO. Instead, there are really three main areas that I think you should focus your efforts on in 2024 and beyond. And to me, this is sort of that future-proof concept around SEO. It is that if we do these bigger things and we focus our efforts in these places, we're actually going to impact the results today and in the years to come. And so when we talk about SEO strategy and where to get involved, there's really these three key places: user experience, sharing expertise, which is really your content marketing, and then building trust and authority, which is really this component that is offsite SEO. So let's dive into each of these. The first is user experience. And in this audience, I don't have to spend a lot of time talking about the user experience on a website, because as web designers and developers and awesome agency owners, these things come as second nature to you. I know you work hard to make sure your clients' websites are secure and speedy and well-designed so they're easy to digest, that they lack kind of interfering ads and pop-ups and things that take away from user experience, and that they're mobile friendly. But I want to reiterate that the basics of SEO start in this place. They start with having a great website that's good for end users. And so when you're engaging in design or conversion rate optimization, any of these things that improve usability on a website, thinking through navigation, etc. You are thinking about user experience, and thus you are doing SEO for your clients, even if you're not getting paid as an SEO specialist. So this is a big piece, and this can be an area that we can circle back around to for clients that maybe have strengths in their content marketing, but their actual design and layout doesn't look great. There's SEO value in kind of returning to square one and really focusing on that end user experience. The space I want to dive into with a little more detail is the topic of content marketing. And we've all known over the years that content is king when it comes to SEO, that the most impactful thing you can do, generally speaking, for a client's SEO strategy is to help them evolve and improve and readily expand their content. And the reason is because Google values showcasing expertise. And they do so by showcasing blog posts, pages, etc. And when we engage in content marketing, whether it's creating a new blog post or revising an existing one or adding more content to, say, a services page on our agency website, we're engaged in the activity that Google appreciates, which is ever evolving and ever kind of keeping that foot on the gas on the content creation. But content marketing has changed a lot over the years. In the very beginning, it was the low-hanging fruit. Nobody else was out there doing it. And so you could engage in content marketing for your clients, move to the top of the search results, and life was pretty easy. Then everyone quickly picked up into the world of content marketing, and it's evolved over the years. There was a period where it was all about content length. And so you heard statistics like a blog post has to be 2,000 words or more in length, otherwise it's not going to perform well. And we saw the rise of the definitive guide. So we saw people creating massive pieces of content and building out content libraries that were really exhaustive, which is great and comprehensive, but also a little bit overwhelming to the end user. I don't know about you, but the last time I read a definitive guide, I didn't really walk away with anything because I walked away with so many things. It's sort of like you have so many action items, you're frozen in inaction. And so in 2024, and what we're seeing work in our website and in our client's website is this idea of taking a corner and sharing a unique perspective with our content by getting more specific. So we're not writing definitive guides. Instead, we're taking an area of expertise, we're breaking it down into component parts, and then we're making sure that as we do so, we share a unique perspective, which sometimes means taking an opinion on a topic and making our content stand out from all of the content that's, say, a little bit more generic and created by AI out there. In our content marketing, we also really want to focus on including genuine experience that showcases who wrote the content. So Google doesn't actually care if you use AI to help generate your content, if you use it as a tool, like a calculator. But the content needs to be in the frame of being powered by genuine experience and genuine expertise, which AI just doesn't really do. Instead, you need a really great copywriter, and a great copywriter is going to bring in language and storytelling and writing techniques that really show the who behind the content and show that this content isn't generated by somebody without expertise in the area, but rather with genuine experience and expertise. Because as end users, that's really what we also want. And so in our agency, this is where we work with contractors and freelancers that essentially have genuine expertise and experience in a client's subject matter and can create great content that continues to perform well with the search engines. We have not replaced any of that with AI because AI just doesn't raise to that bar. We can use AI in our content marketing, like to help create organizational structure for the blog post, etc. But when it comes down to strategy and when it comes down to putting pen to paper, we continue to see the best results come from content that's powered by real people and great writers. The other thing we see with content marketing is that we want not to just showcase the who wrote the content and who that expert is, but also focus on the audience. And this is a big part of what I'd call an audience-first content strategy. And you see it in Google's language where they talk often about people first. That's really what they want, is think about people. Don't think about SEO. Don't think about using AI to cut corners. Think about the end user and their experience. And every time you put the focus there, you're going to find great performance. And so I want to break this down in a little more detail about, like, what does it mean to focus topics on audience instead of to tackle a general topic? And I'm going to do it with one of the blog posts on Pathfinder's blog. This post was written in 2020. You can see it's already quite outdated because I haven't updated it. And I think last year I just put the 2023 stamp on it, but I didn't actually change any content in it. And for a while in 2020 through about partway through 2022, this content did really well. And it's pretty easy content, but it was on the top 10 of Google for SEO glossary, and it picked up a lot of traction, and we got a lot of traffic. And you can see all it is a laundry list of terms. And you can imagine that back in 2020, this would have taken a while to write, but this would be the kind of thing that using AI would actually be quite easy to write, and would just need some fact checking and some introduction. But what makes this piece of content sort of interesting in our lens of 2024 is that it's not performing nearly as well today as it did back in 2020. And that's because it's super generic, not just because it's outdated. But it's really generic. It doesn't have a target audience. The sea is vast, and over time, and this is a graph from the Google Search Console, and it only can go back 16 months. So you're kind of seeing the end of the glory days. But you can see it's really tapered off, and especially in the last quarter, essentially. And that is Google's helpful content update in action. And so as content marketers, we have a choice. And one of our choices is stay with the topic, expand and improve the content, and see if we can get this to get more traction. But the problem with this content is that it's general and that it doesn't actually generate a lot of leads for our business, even when it's performing well. And the reason is A, there are no calls to action, but B, it's targeting a huge and wide audience. And who we really want to get in front of are our customers, and our customers are freelancers and agencies and web designers. And so as we evolve this piece of content to get more specific and to focus on our audience instead of something general, we're going to add a lens essentially to this topic. And the lens is going to be something around glossary for, and then the audience we serve. And so if we come in here and we think about this, I was playing around with keyword research today, and I typed in SEO for web designers. And in this little list here, I see SEO terms for web design. Sorry, I've got somebody knocking on the door, but I think we're all set. I see SEO terms for web design. And with SEO terms for web design, I could augment this content and move it into basically representing SEO terms for web designers. So that's the kind of example I have of how we can layer in audience into our content. I want to give you one other example. At our agency, we also work with a lot of folks that are in the travel industry space. And so in the travel industry space, we have essentially the idea of like things to do in guides. And so if you had a client that was things to do in NYC, like NYC, you back in the day would have created the definitive guide to things to do in New York City, and you would have maybe listed 99 things to do. And that content would have done really well for general keywords, which were high volume. But now we actually see in the search results more of an opportunity to add in audience or to add in an angle. In this case, you can see an audience like things to do in NYC with kids. And in other places, we see things like dates, like things to do in NYC in December or Christmas in January. So instead of creating one massive piece of content, we could create a series of posts, and we could create a lot of content that takes an angle and takes a stance. So that's what I mean by content marketing and how we can evolve content strategy. And to go back to the beginning there, we have that you can take a corner, share a unique perspective, include that genuine experience, and then showcase who the author is and who the intended audience is. And that when we apply this lens to our content marketing efforts this year, that content tends to perform a lot better than the more generic content that we've created over the years. Let's talk more now about offsite SEO. When we talk about offsite SEO, we talk about this idea of building trust and authority. So in trust and authority, we need to invest in real-world marketing, and that real-world marketing helps us to build links back to our website or our clients' websites. We do that by building partnerships. So if your client, for instance, is a guest on a blog post or on a webinar or a podcast or something, they have the opportunity via that relationship to build a link from the partner's website back to their website that acts as a vote of endorsement. This is link building 101. And what's great about link building in the real world is it makes sense. It makes sense that Google would value understanding the context of a website and a business in the context of the real world and how they do business. So it's not a paid link building strategy, but it's really a link building strategy built on partnerships. And I bring this topic up because offsite SEO is the piece of the puzzle that can be the hardest for people. And it's the hardest to kind of help with clients to really take an in-depth approach to, but it still really matters in the world of SEO today. And so it's an area we can't just skip or gloss over because Google still values this concept. The other thing is that we can't forget about Google Maps. And the good news there is Google Maps is great for local businesses. And it's a great way for local businesses to build that trust and authority online because there are reviews on Google Maps. And so businesses can build trust and authority by getting reviews from their customers on Google Maps. It makes it really easy for Google to measure and see. And that is an area of SEO that is as true today as it was in the past, and we predict will continue to be impactful. So those are the three areas focusing on user experience, content marketing, and offsite SEO. And when you do these three things in conjunction for your clients, it snowballs over time. And it guarantees sort of a future-proof component or strategy around your SEO. What I want to start to talk about now, though, is AI a little more specifically, and how is SEO or AI impacting SEO in 2024? And the biggest way that it is impacting is Google's search generative experience. And it's likely that in this call, we all have different experiences ranging from haven't touched it to using the search generative experience on Google all the time. And so there's a big range of kind of our experience here. And there's also a lot of unknowns as to how this will roll out. But Google basically in 2023 launched the search generative experience that's designed to help you better learn and make sense of information on the web. It's more conversational and it encourages follow-up searches. And so if we go over to Google and we do a search like things to do in New York City with kids, I right now have Google Labs available here, and I have the search generative experience turned on. So if I click this little generate button, I can see a little thing that says generative AI is experimental. And in this top section of the search results, I'm getting AI-based results. And Google has crafted a sentence like this using AI. It's not content that's been stripped from someone's website. And they're going to showcase a couple of these, ideas of things to do. And then you scroll down and there's going to be some follow-up prompts where I could continue to search in this area. And the big change for businesses and for website owners is that there's a concern that we're moving into an era of what's called zero-click results. So I talked about will SEO die or will websites go away? Well, this is one of those concepts around threat there because I may get my answer to this question right directly from Google and just continue to do searches instead of what I would have done before, which is go to either these sponsored ads down here or actually go to a listing like this one from Timeout. So the concern for a website like Timeout is essentially that with the search generative experience, all of a sudden there is going to be a lower click-through rate, and that's something that we need to prepare for. But there's still work to be done to get some visibility in some of these different, search generative experience spaces. And if we take a step back and frame this change all as part of the evolution of search, it makes a lot more sense. And that is 10 years ago, Google and the search engines were all about just links to relevant websites. You had your paid ads at the top and then your organic listings. And it was just all about getting the search intent matched with the listings below. And then you would pick the listing that made sense and you'd click over and go to a website. And that was all that Google did. And then over time, Google came in and started to use instant answers. And so the search results page, or the SERP, as you'll hear it called, became a combination of driving traffic to websites and providing relevant information directly on the search engine results page. So there was a combination there, which was really interesting. And during this time, marketers sort of got stressed out and they felt like there was less opportunity. Again, click-through rates were being impacted. And you can see how this plays out sometimes in different search results. Like this people also ask section all of a sudden takes away from clicks to websites because I get instant answers. This is already on Google today. We've already overcome this transition. And the search generative experience is sort of another step on top of it. And so if we start to, think about the impact that this is going to have and what we need to be doing today to prepare for the era, which is an unknown time frame. We don't know if and when this will actually roll out in Google. We just anticipate it coming because it's in beta. But this is the time to introduce the concept of the search generative experience to your clients. You want to introduce them to the idea of zero-click results. You want to help realign their expectations if you think their website has more to gain or to lose from this era. And you want to reassure them that you're here to help them navigate this change and note how your SEO strategy is going to evolve accordingly. And so with some of our clients, one of the things we've been doing is talking about how the traction maybe they got for a really general keyword or sort of informational queries, that may see a drop in click-through rates because of the search generative experience. But there are still opportunities to get traction in this space in and of itself. And so if you continue to do searches in here, you can see that generative AI still does feature websites. These little up and down arrows will feature different websites. And this shows a little bit about like what content is training the search engines. But a website like Timeout still has a lot of opportunity here because they're going to have the opportunity to show up in these carousels, and that many end users aren't going to just trust the generated content. They still are going to want to react or interact with those websites. So we want to help our clients understand this landscape and note if our SEO strategy is evolving. And the SEO strategy is really evolving to basically increase our efforts in certain areas that we think will be aligned with just general best practices for SEO, as we've already covered, but very specifically also should play well in the search generative experience if and when it goes live. And so the places that you can increase your efforts, the first is creating that content that is more specific. And we already talked about that a little bit, like creating that content that adds in the audience or that adds a lens. So instead of things to do in New York City, it's things to do in New York City on a date, or things to do in New York City with kids and things like that. The next is the idea of focusing on sharing firsthand experience and content. So that's the idea that we want to make sure we play up against competitors who are maybe relying on AI generated content, that we're going to play up our genuine experience and tell stories and make sure that that experience comes through in our content. Then we may find that integrating more questions into content can be really valuable. And that is because you can see that the follow-up prompts are oftentimes structured as questions. And so if we want to essentially, if we want to target essentially an area, then making sure that our website has content that answers questions and structures things as questions is really helpful. And so when we think about adding questions into our content, it can be done in a lot of different places. You can add it on services pages. If you think about like your web design services page on your agency website, you could add in an FAQ section at the bottom that asks and answers questions about web design, like how long does it take to build a new website? How much does it cost? Should I hire an agency? Is WordPress or Squarespace better, etc.? There are a lot of questions you could do that lend themselves to being SEO friendly because they are user friendly. They are the real questions that your prospects ask you in the sales process. We can do the same thing for websites that serve a national or international audience, like an e-commerce website, where we can go to a product collection page and add questions about that product collection. So if we're talking about backpacks, we can, if we're going hiking or backpacking, we can ask and answer questions that help people in the process as they're buying a backpack. Like how big should it be? Does it need to be specific, like men's versus women's? How do I determine the best backpack for beginners? There are so many questions we can ask and answer on a page like that expands that kind of cloud of expertise and experience in a space. We can also integrate this into blog posts. And so if you look at some of the top performing blogs on our website, we see that essentially a lot of those posts have questions integrated into them naturally. And so sometimes they're headers of sections of a post. Sometimes, there are just little components like what's next or whatever it might be. But we can structure our content in question-based phrases and use that to help essentially cover a topic. So here's an example of one that probably has a few more questions, like what to include in monthly SEO reports. And then you end that, how to create it, what's the best automated reporting tool. These are all questions that real people ask us, but also that we get from doing searches on Google, like monthly SEO report. And if you do a search for this, we can see down in here, essentially questions people ask. And if we go up to the top and we generate a response, Google may not, since they know we have content here, but we can see what the follow-up questions are. How do I get an SEO report? What does it look like, etc. So these are all things that we can do. The next thing that we can do when we want to talk about increasing our efforts this year, we can invest in schema markup. And this is something that we've just been scratching the surface on in our agency. And that is that when we structure content behind the scenes for Google in ways that they can extract meaningful information from that content and pull it into the search results, that context around the structure of content bodes well for SEO. And many people anticipate that it will help to have structured data on a website to perform better in the generative AI section of the search results. It's important to note that schema markup is not actually a ranking factor. So there's not like a box where you add schema markup to a website and you meet some new bar, and then now all of a sudden Google likes it in the generative AI section or just down in the organic search section. But rather, it really plays up the search engine results page. So if I do a search for something like banana bread recipe, I'm going to see in the recipes being showcased structured data at play. So I can see the title of it, who wrote it, how many stars and reviews it has, how long it's going to take, and then what are the ingredients. And so Google is extracting this information via the schema markup or via the structured data to be able to showcase it in this carousel listing up here. But then you also see it coming into the search results down here below. And this has been around for quite some time. And it's just an area of SEO that people are saying they think will have a powerful impact when it comes to the search results, because you can see that generative AI is quite a bit structured, right? So you can see here that those reviews and same things are still getting pulled in to this generative AI result, just like they were down below. This idea of structured data really parallels, in this case, we're seeing reviews a little bit with why local search still matters in this generative AI landscape. Because if I go and do a search for something like interior designer in New York City, and I come down here, they're giving paid results first, then I'll generate that response. But you're going to see Google is still pulling in Google Maps listings. So local search matters, and you can still see these reviews are coming in. And the big phrase that you're going to see in the search engine results is some say blah, 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 and some say this. And basically, that's Google's AI consolidating what people wrote in the reviews and turning it into a small snippet about the business. And so this is where, when we talked earlier about the importance of offsite SEO, offsite SEO is still super important because you can see reviews in something like Google Maps still really matter in this landscape here, just like they do in the landscape down below. So investing in schema markup is another idea. And then the other thing that we're kind of increasing our efforts for clients is creating author pages on websites. So if we want to showcase who is behind content, it helps to have good about content on our website. And that can be on an about page, but it also within WordPress can be on the author archive pages. And this is an area of SEO, that just creates good user experience, but it serves up your SEO because it helps to explain the who behind the content. So these are a couple of ideas of where you can increase your efforts. And I want to close before we move on to questions with a final concept of what we're thinking about this year. And that is that attribution is harder than ever, and that metrics may change and success definitions may change. And so when you think about SEO and measuring success and telling clients and making sure they understand the return on their investment for their SEO efforts, you often think about attribution and attribution models that say you got 1,000 sessions from organic search and that led to $10,000 of revenue. And that back in the day, we are able to even go down to the keyword level and say this keyword drove this many sessions, which led to this high quality traffic, which led to this many sales. But we've lost this perfect world of attribution. And our customers have really grown accustomed to the idea as they moved maybe away from like print advertising and like billboards and things like that, or radio ads where you just never really knew what the value totally was. They had to accept that back in the day. And then they got into digital marketing and you had this world of really clean data. And attribution was really touted as like, hey, I can tell you exactly what is leading to good performance. Well, we continue to move into a world where things are a little muddier. We sort of know the top level revenue numbers, but we know customer acquisition comes usually across multiple sources: organic search, email marketing, Google ads, social media, etc. That when you acquire a new customer or generate a lead, it's hard to pinpoint exactly who should get the perfect amount of credit. And in this transition we are in the world of SEO, it's becoming even a little bit harder to measure attribution. And one of the reasons for that is with the generative AI experience, we probably will see a decrease in click-through rates. And so if we see that decrease in click-through rates, we're almost back in some ways as relying on a little bit of the billboard or the impression-based model, where we actually care about just getting visibility, even if we don't win the click in that moment, because more people are relying on Google to provide them the information, and they're clicking over to websites potentially a little less. So for some clients, the water is going to be muddier. It could be hard to keep session counts up, and that businesses need to understand this trajectory so that they can realign their expectations, that our goals and our metrics may be changing, but that the output is still the same, or the output is still that SEO is a really valuable marketing channel, and that their efforts are going towards great visibility and getting in front of the right audience and generating revenue. It's just harder to credit every step of the way as perfectly in 2024 as it was, in 2020 and before. Privacy settings also contribute to that, and can also change things like with thresholding and Google Analytics, etc. So these are a myriad of topics that we are both thinking about at our agency, updating Pathfinder SEO and training people on, and changing SEO strategy. But what I really want to leave you with is that if you had joined me for this same talk a year ago, even as AI was a little bit more in its infancy, we would still have been talking about the same things. And if you joined me for this conversation a year before that, the same. And if you joined me 10 years ago and we talked about SEO, we would have been talking about good content marketing best practices and how to build trust and authority, because these are the real world things that impact search results. What we're doing now is just fine tuning and saying, okay, instead of definitive guides, it is that more specific content that is targeted around a specific audience or an angle or a subset of that topical expertise. And we're still trying to get maps reviews. We're still trying to get links, etc. So the bones are the same, and really all we're doing is kind of tweaking a little bit about where we invest our time and energy, and then also making sure that our clients come alongside us and they understand the dynamics of what's going on today. If you don't offer SEO services yet at your agency, I hope you get a couple of takeaways here. One is that you're already doing SEO for your clients because you help them with great user experience. You likely help them with content. And so you're already offering a lot of the components of SEO services, and you just might not be getting paid for it. The other is that this is a really great time to get involved with clients because there's a lot of education you can provide and a lot of value you can provide as you help them navigate this transition. And that by speaking in a way that makes us feel approachable and non-threatening, you will separate yourselves out from all of the other SEO providers that use fear tactics or complicated language, and they make this all seem really overwhelming as a means of winning a new customer. So this is a great time to offer SEO services, and it's dynamic and exciting, and yet we still can rely on all the old techniques and tools and things to continue to drive value for our clients. So we have some minutes left, and Emily, I'm happy to take some questions if they've come in, and try to kind of keep things interesting and more dynamic here.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. That was great. I really loved, I know the last time we had you on, you were showing the search generative experience as well in Google search. And it's super interesting. I want to let folks know how they can turn that on, because as you were talking, I was kind of looking into it. And one thing I noticed, you cannot be using a Google Workspace account and turn it on.
Yes, and so that's the biggest thing that our group of peers that we all run into is that many of us use Google Apps for Business or Google Workspace, and so you go to sign up for Google Labs and try to get access to the beta, and it doesn't let you in. And so I don't actually know the why on that, like why they wouldn't let you use it in the work context. But I just have it turned on in my personal Gmail account. And then depending on how you like to work, I always am logged into like a million Google accounts anyways. So I like it because it gives me total control when I am in a client call. Like, those clients that they're not ready for this. They don't even know the difference between Google Ads and SEO. So let's start the conversation with the AI generative stuff totally turned off. So the nice part is if your business account doesn't have it and your personal does, you can showcase what you want in the right context and in the right call. But go to labs.google and try to use your personal email to get access to that AI-powered, AI-generated result.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to point that out because I remember discovering that after our last call with you. I was like, oh, that's important.
Yeah, that was new to me too. Probably right around that time.
Yeah, great. I'm not seeing any questions coming in. I know we've got lots of folks watching. I can see we've got some SEO folks even watching over on LinkedIn. So if you have questions, feel free to please put them in the comments and I can get them to Lindsay. And if we wrap this up and you don't get a chance to ask your questions, that's totally fine. Also, we will be back with Lindsay with more SEO content next month. We are planning on that, so stay tuned. Make sure if you're watching this on LinkedIn to make sure to follow Quickly Hire, our account, so you can be notified when we have future events. If you're watching on YouTube, just make sure to subscribe and you'll see all that. We're also live streaming in our digital agency owners Facebook community, so you can, if you're on Facebook, you can join us there. It is a private community, so you have to request to join, but if you're an agency owner, we would love to have you there. You can go and search the Digital Agency Owners community on Facebook. So I'm not seeing any questions come in. Lindsay, this is really great insights into where search is going. I know people have lots of concerns or thoughts or wonderings about all the things you can do with AI and all of the new tools out there to create blog posts and all of that. So I always look to you for guidance on that. Should folks be creating blog posts using AI? How far are you comfortable going with that in the SEO world right now?
That's a really good question. And so In earlier part of 2023, the idea was that if you were going to do well with Google's helpful content system, your content had to be powered by people, like by people for people. And then Google updated its verbiage to say for people, which really meant by any means you'd like to create it. And so that kind of opens up this floodgate idea that like, well, why don't I just go and generate a ton of AI-based content and throw it on my website? But for any of us who have created AI-generated content, there are parts of it that are good, and it's a tool. But without strategy to know what to write about, and without the component that is the storytelling or the human piece, that AI-generated content doesn't do very well. You saw that post that I showed. I mean, we didn't generate that glossary with AI because we created it back in 2020. But you can imagine how easy would it be to create something like this with AI and get it on your website. If I challenged you to do that within 15 minutes, do you think you could do it? I think the answer is probably yes. But look at the piece of content, and if you saw our Google Analytics results, you would just see it tanking and doing like nothing. So what's it going to do for your business, your client's business? Nothing. You might, think it's a nice shortcut, but it's not working. And it's not working because A, it's not strategic. It's too general, doesn't target our audience, etc. The other is there's no storytelling or personality or anything about who's powering it. And so when we think about how do we leverage AI, I do think there are ways to leverage AI to speed things up with content production, but I still like keeping the strategy a real person because that's how you think about the real world business of things. And we still have freelance copywriters working, with us, and the copywriting team at Quickly Hire is a great resource there because we want people with genuine expertise and experience in that area. And then we can use AI to do things like create an outline. So we don't miss an important topic or subset. Or if I'm trying to come up with some new ideas, maybe I use AI to generate ideas for a blog on managed IT services, which is a client of ours that I don't know anything about. And I need to understand conceptually things about their business industry space so I can go back to them, have conversations, and then bring in a good writer that genuinely knows IT. So that's a little bit about how we've been approaching it. Some people call it a bit old school, but it gut checks on what feels right. But then also when we look at the results and we compare content that we've thrown up with AI versus content that we've produced in-house, we have a client right now that upped their content game, 100% powered by a copywriter that's doing all of our own writing. They're doing 4 posts a month right now. And we have revenue tracking because they use call tracking and have really sophisticated revenue systems. And it's like amazing to see how much value they've gotten out of the content in just 1 year. And it's because it's strategic, human powered, and really we're in close with their business.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really good insights. And I think you hear that kind of across the board when you speak to SEO specialists and content marketers that AI is great, AI is useful, use it, harness that power, but you need to keep that human aspect still a little bit, the human element to it when it comes to strategy, adding the storytelling, like you said, making it really strategic and not just throwing up, content nonstop onto your site.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. I'm not seeing any questions coming in. I do know that we are on a little bit of a delay in terms of Lindsay and I here in the studio and those of you watching. However, if you have questions afterward, feel free to still post them and I will collect those and we can ask them on our next live stream with Lindsay, so I won't miss them. You can also email me, emily@quicklyhire.com, if you have questions. But yeah, make sure to follow us so you can come to our next events, and we'll continue to have more agency hours specifically for our audience of agency owners. We love having you all around and creating content for you. Also, if you have something you're struggling with and would like a specific topic discussed here, let me know and I can make that happen. So thank you everyone for joining us today live, those of you that did, and thank you everyone who's watching the recordings, and most of all, thank you, Lindsay, for your time today and sharing your expertise.
Thanks so much, Emily, and thanks everyone for being here, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next month, and I hope you have a great day.
Awesome, sounds good. See you, everybody. Have a great day.